looks like something's coming up.
Yay, wonderful. So hopefully we are live. You can hear me and see me. This is Schneider-Bean from Schneider-Bean.com, and I am going live from South Africa, excuse me, to Tanzania. So hopefully I'm getting a little bit pixelated images coming in on the video. We're going to check that everything can be seen well and that you can hear me. Just let me take a quick look. We are live. So welcome everybody who's watching. I am here with Brenda from Tanzania Choice Safaris and someone who's very special to me. She is a courageous participant in the Year of Transformation. And she's so graciously offered her time today to help us be inspired by her story and learn more about what it really takes to transform your life. So Brenda, welcome to this special interview on Schneider-Bean.com on the Facebook page. I hope that you can hear me and see me well, because right now it's a bit pixelated on my screen. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, you look great.
Okay, perfect. So here we go. Brenda and I have actually known each other since Ouagadougou, I believe, right? We got in contact, it must have been about 2014.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, exactly. You were definitely, it was when you were in West Africa, because that's what really caught my attention about you, that you were small town rural America background and living on the African continent. And those two things really resonated with me. So that's how we first connected.
It's so fun. Yeah. So I was over in the West and you're over in the East, and we connected. And Brenda is one of those people that you would automatically admire because, first of all, she has twins among other children. So anybody who can manage twins, I think, is amazing. She is running a business. She's in a binational marriage and she lives in Tanzania, originally from the US. So Brenda, you're amazing. Why don't you introduce yourself beyond what I've just shared?
Sure. Thank you, Sunday. It's fun to be here. This is my first Facebook Live, so this is a lot of fun to experiment with the technology with you. So I have lived here in Tanzania now. We made what I call our permanent move, in 2012. And okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I'm just checking on the phone if it's still coming in okay. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So our twins, Max and Ellie, and I were living in Baltimore, but in 2012, all the planets aligned for us to make our move here to Arusha.
One second, my images. I am doing something I shouldn't be doing. Hang on a second.
We're living in Baltimore, but in 2012.
I was trying to make sure everything was working fine, and then my volume came on. So excuse me, keep going.
Okay. So we made our permanent move in 2012. At that time, my husband Kakasi, who is a native Tanzanian, we got married in 2010, but he was here in Tanzania and I was in Baltimore. And that's where our twins, Max and Ellie, were born. So for the first 11 and a half months of their lives, I was solo parenting. And there with them in Baltimore, I was working, and we were in the process, and there was an opportunity coming together, kind of formulating that would allow for the twins and me to make our move here to Tanzania. I was changing positions with the organization I was working for, and was going to be able to work here out of the Arusha office of that organization.
Well, I mean, I just need to stop right there for a second, because everybody who is watching or listening later can respect the courage it takes, one, to solo parent while you've got twins, also be working at the same time, and then to put down that ongoing career commitment in your home country to move across the world with someone from another culture. I mean, that is amazing courage.
Thank you. Thank you. It, people, people are often surprised when they know that I was solo parenting all that time, and can't believe, wonder how I managed to do that. But honestly, now that the kids are 7, that time back then was like a piece of cake, because they couldn't go anywhere. They didn't have opinions, they didn't talk back. So it was, it seems like, looking back anyway, the memories are always a little milder than the reality at the time. But, since we've been here and they've gotten older and more independent and opinions of their own, it's becoming more challenging. But at least here I have my husband to join me in the parenting adventure. So
exactly. I love that. I know they would eat what you fed them, right? It's like, it's a whole
exactly. Yeah, slept when I would lay them down. They would go to sleep and all of that. But
yeah.
So they were 11 and a half months old when we moved here, and up until that point they had not yet met their father in person. My husband wasn't able to be in the U.S. at the time of their birth. And so we just had to wait until we could get it all sorted out for us to come here. So when we stepped off the airplane at Kilimanjaro International Airport, that was the first time he laid eyes on them in person, and vice versa, and could hold them. And that was the day that we started building our life together. I call that our Tansiversary, June 8th. And what was really appropriate about it, though, was that particular year, we boarded the plane from Baltimore on June 17th, and that was Father's Day that year.
Oh, that's sweet.
An especially nice Father's Day present that year. So we've been together here in Arusha since mid-2012, and I continued to work full-time for the organization I'd worked for 11 years in Baltimore, for about a year and a half, 15 months, 18 months, something like that. And my contract, my full-time contract with them, wrapped up, and I still continue to do some contract work as needed with them. But at that time, then my husband and I decided it was time to really take the leap and put all of our effort into his dream, which was to start his own safari company. He's been a safari guide for more than 20 years and is incredible at the work. And that was a huge factor in our decision once we got married, where we live. He could have come to the US, I could have come here, but a huge factor was he's so skilled and passionate about his work, and he wouldn't have that same kind of work opportunity, career opportunity in Baltimore. There's not a big market for safari guides.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think the people that are watching or viewing this later can identify with that sort of raw acceptance of sometimes it makes sense for one partner to root down either their home country or professionally in a career track, and the other one has to adapt. So you're certainly highly adaptive. Tell us fast forward for us, you've already gone through this crazy challenge of solo parenting and twins, and you're starting your business. Where were you, like, emotionally and however else you want to answer it, when you decided, hey, I'm going to think about doing Year of Transformation? What was happening right then?
Oh gosh. Well, one of the things about making the move was I worked for a fabulous organization. I loved my work, and it seemed like the perfect scenario, a win-win scenario for the organization and for me. I could continue to work for them, contribute my skills and talents to the organization's mission, but I could do it from here with a new position that was being created in this region. What neither of us, my sending organization nor I, anticipated, though, was that this was a huge transition for me. Mm-hmm. I had never lived abroad before. I'd done lots of travel, and I was very familiar with Tanzania because I'd been here so many times. But up until that time, the longest I had spent here was not quite 3 months. I had come one in 2009 on a sabbatical for 3 months. And so I think we were all so excited about how well this was kind of coming together for me, for the organization. And so there wasn't a lot of preparation or I guess resources that I received or I had access to through my employer to help me with that transition and to sort of, make that move. Now, and I worked for an international NGO, so, I'm not the only deployed, U.S. employee deployed overseas, but for the most part, the organization, not as policy, but as practice, doesn't do that very often unless the position is really specialized. And in my case, it was a specialized position. So it was kind of new territory for all of us. And so I came super excited about, being able to continue professionally in what I love to do. Now my family's together, but not really realizing what that meant
right
for me at the most personal level.
Yep.
And not thinking about the fact, I've always been self-aware in the fact that I'm very introverted.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what I need in terms of, I need a lot of quiet time. I need a lot of alone time to recharge my batteries. And, in all the excitement of the move, I never once stopped and thought, when I get to Arusha, I'm going to join my husband and, we're going to combine households now. And there are going to be 11 people in that house. I had just lived alone for 20 years.
An introvert who's living alone.
Except, that last 11 and a half months with Max and Ellie, but they were tiny and quiet a lot of the time. So,
right.
But no, we moved because my husband has 3 older children that I have had the delight and honor of co-parenting with him since we were married. They were all still living at home. My husband had a nephew living with him while he was in school, which is very common here for extended family to be in the house. Because I was coming and having the babies with me, we ended up with 3 live-in house helpers.
Right.
Which wasn't the plan, but it just sort of worked out that we ended up with 3 young women who needed jobs and we needed help. So it all kind of came together. But add that all together and there were 11 of us. So there was no corner in the house I could go to have that time. Right. So that was huge. And I'm trying to sort of carve out this new place for myself in my work and establish myself as the mother of the household, taking care of the household, that sort of thing. And how is that different here? In the US, I was very accustomed to, I took care of my own house. I did my own laundry. I did my own cooking and all of that. And here that's not always the case. And it's hard because it's hard. Everything's done by hand or from scratch and takes, much longer. And so sort of turning over to someone else those duties or those things that I used to all handle myself was difficult. And just things were harder to do here. And I wasn't used to things being hard.
Right.
I'm very achievement oriented.
You're hard. You're in a relationship. You're in a bicultural relationship. You're raising young twins. You're in a new culture, new language, new climate, new part of the world, new food, running a company, right? Like I know, if you're watching this or listening later, that any one of those things is enough. Like I said, I'm out. Like right when I hear twins, I'm out. Like I have 2 boys, but I didn't have to have them at the same time. And that's, I think, one thing, if I can share that, one of the things that you and I have talked about is like, give yourself some credit. You're dealing with so much all at the same time.
Yeah. And that wasn't, I didn't have that awareness. That's definitely something that you've helped me with, and your transformation has led me to give myself some grace and to recognize that, I know, multiple times it came up in our conversations. I had this sort of kind of a resistance or almost a resentment of, it's not like it was in Baltimore. This isn't Baltimore. Well, duh, it's not Baltimore, But, so here there's so many other external factors that weigh in on my life that just didn't exist for me in Baltimore. And so just all of a sudden things were harder to do, and things that were like simple, like opening a bank account, I had opened a new bank account right before we moved. It took me 2 minutes online. In 3 days, I had my ATM card done.
Yep.
Here, I joked when I got here that I was going to write a book called How to Open a Bank Account in Tanzania in 63 Easy Steps.
You totally need to do that.
So much effort, and like going to the bank and standing in the queue and waiting for your turn and trying to get to the bottom of why it was taking so long, or even being clear on what the process was so that I could come the first time with all the paperwork I needed and all of that. And it just was wearing on me so much, and it was exhausting, and it was depleting of, energy and frustrating. And I was like, why isn't this easy? Why isn't this like it was?
Yeah.
And you've said to me you've said to me multiple times in our conversations then, but this isn't Baltimore. Look at where you are, look at the context. What you're doing is really amazing in this context. And one of the things I've had to do is, instead of comparing where I am now to where I want to go and measuring that gap between the two, and instead looking at where I am now and where I came from, and recognizing that gain. So measuring the gain rather than measuring the gap.
Yeah, I'm going to just stop there for a second for those who are listening. I think it's really important to think about, because, whoever's watching, they may or may not even think about be doing Year of Transformation, but you're giving really good tips right there. Like, wherever you're at, one, I'm hearing you say, recognize where you are and how hard that really is compared to maybe what your life was before. So being able to see that, like you have, accepting that. I heard, this resistance of it's, but in Baltimore, it's easier to, do a bank, accepting what is, and then celebrating how far you've come and using that for motivation instead of just focusing on the gap of what's ahead of you. So that, I think, is really great for anybody who's watching.
Yeah. And, I'm very goal oriented. I do a lot of, I've done some online courses, and
you're amazing. You're like an efficiency guru. Do not, underestimate yourself. You're amazing. Seriously.
Well, thank you. But what I've learned, it's like I'm getting much better now at sort of doing that planning and setting my sights. I mean, I still have big goals. My husband and I have big goals for our family, for our home. We have a coffee and banana farm on Mount Kilimanjaro. We've got plans for that. We've got plans for our company. We've got plans for our family. So we have big goals, but I'm learning to pace myself a little bit better in terms of what I think we can get done this month or this quarter or this year. And it makes it so much more enjoyable then, because I can still see the progress. I can still feel the achievement, and and celebrate that. But it's a little more realistic when there's things like, banks don't operate as efficiently as they do in what I'm used to in the US. Government bureaucracy is ridiculous. People, the culture of Tanzania is like anti-hustle. There's just relationships come before progress, which isn't a bad thing at all. It's quite lovely when you think about it. It's just really what I feel like it's sort of done for me is amplified those American characteristics of, hustle, make it happen, get her done, that kind of thing. And I have, gotten myself into hot water where I've just like wanted to plow through something and not done the appropriate kind of greetings and conversation and that sort of thing that is important. It's really highly valued here. My husband is so good at it. And, he's like, I'm about as introverted as you can get. He is the king of extroverts. I mean, he's just so
you guys
extroverted.
Are such a great pair.
Culture is so extroverted, everybody's into everybody else's business, or, interested in conversations about, you can't ask for directions on the street without greeting the person first and asking how they are, how the day is. Even yesterday, my husband and I were together, we were trying to find a place where we had some printing done. And I said, well, you go ask you go ask for directions because, you know, I knew he could just go and greet those guys. It took him like 5 minutes to come back to the car with the directions because he was busy talking to these guys. But
in Burkina Faso, it's like, oui, bonjour, ça va, la famille, les enfants. Like you ask, how are the crops? How's the health? How's everybody?
Yeah.
So tell me, Brenda, so this is where I think I'm curious, and I'm sure the people who are watching are curious. You are super good about systems, efficiency, time management. You're the type of person who can solo parent and raise twins. You are the courageous person who leaves everything behind in the US and goes to Tanzania. Why did you say you wanted to partner together for Year of Transformation? Like, what were you looking for?
Well, earlier in our conversation, I intentionally used the phrase, we made our permanent move to Tanzania in 2012. I'm in this for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe things would change, but as far as things stand now for my husband and for me and our family, we're not going anywhere. You know, this is where we want to this is where we're building our life together. And besides that, for my husband's career and his passions, but also I mentioned we have 3 older children, and that was the other, even more important than the career aspect for Kakasi. That was the ultimate factor that led us here. Was we want all 5 of our children to grow up together, to know each other. Our 3 older ones are all in their 20s now, but we wanted Max and Ellie to know Ombeni and Godson and Brenda. Our daughter's name is Brenda. Also, we wanted them to know each other and have a relationship. And so, you know, this, for all intents and purposes, is a lifetime. And so I knew I needed to work this out then. And I mean, you know, some things I'd finally kind of resolved myself to or settled into. I mean, when I first moved, I was constantly converting the time zone. You know, I'd look at my watch or I'd look at the clock here and I'd think, well, in Baltimore, it's 8 o'clock. Or, you know, or like, oh, if I was watching TV right now, I'd be watching this, or I'd be talking, you know, I'd be at work, I'd be at the office. And I did that for a long, long time, months probably. And finally I realized one day, oh, I'm functioning now in my local times.
Now you're talking shillings, right? You're talking shillings. You don't talk in dollars anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you wanted the long-term, you wanted to invest long-term in the stability of your family. What did you hope to get out of it? Like I said, you know, you really caught my attention. I think I heard you on a podcast, was my very first introduction to you. And what really caught my attention about you was you came from a similar background as me, this small rural America kind of setting, and moved to the, you know, African continent. Burkina Faso and, you know, Tanzania are quite different, but quite the same. Brothers
I think.
And sisters, yeah.
Cultural things. And so you were the first person I ever heard of that was kind of like me, you know, or that I, you know, could tap into, I guess, as a resource. I mean, by that time, I mean, you know, I'd been here for a while, but I knew a few other American women that were living here, but they were all married to American, you know, they're here with their American husbands, their American children, you know, they were going back home to the US on furlough. And, you know, I just wasn't finding something that felt more like my situation.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was looking for someone who's been there and experienced some of those things, who could coach me through them and encourage me through them and help me find a new place to be, you know, find my place here, and create a new reality and a new sense of accomplishment and sense of place and sense of community. And, you know, I like to learn. I'm you know, I love, like, I'm kind of an online course junkie, you know, and I've done different things on goal setting and productivity and that sort of thing. The idea of actually having a one-on-one kind of relationship was really interesting to me then. You know, thinking how could that take me ahead, take me further in what I'm trying to do here? Have somebody who is fully immersed in my situation, hearing me, listening to me, regularly meeting with me, kind of following my progress, pushing me along when I needed it, or cheering me on, or, what could come out of that. I was really, really curious and intrigued. And you and I had done a little bit of one-on-one work prior to your transformation. I did kind of a little beta course with you once before. And I got a little taste of that then. I think I was a terrible student at that time, though I don't really think I finished all the exercises.
You did a great job. Don't judge.
but some of what I learned a few key things in there that really, they were so enlightening to me. They really opened up. I started seeing how to interact with Tanzanians, and sort of how to navigate that, and to get better results. Yep. And now in our company, I run the office. I kind of manage the finances. I do the marketing. I work with our guests in designing their itineraries. I'm the first point of contact for people, and then once they arrive, then my husband takes over, and we work a lot as a team. But in the office, day to day, I'm sort of managing what happens here, and we have one, and now soon we'll have 2 Tanzanian employees working here in the office, and that was. It's not the same as supervising Americans. And, so it was helping me develop new skills that I didn't have. I felt really confident as a supervisor in my role in the US, and here I was like, I don't know how to get the results we need to get. And so even some of the earlier work I did with you helped me with that. So I thought, a whole year of kind of concentrated effort, this one-on-one, setting progress, setting small goals, monitoring our progress, what could be possible with that.
Yeah. It's so fun to listen to you, because all of this stuff I'm asking you is just popping up, right? It's not like we rehearsed this before. So I'm taking notes. I'd love to hear your perspective, because I'm in the nitty gritty, but you're kind of going above and taking the bird's eye view. So there are 2 things. Where are you now? Where are you now that's very different from before?
I think that I've been able to make some of that a huge part of this for me has been mindset shift. Like I was saying before, I kept always, I used to always be like, well, in Baltimore this, or in the US that, and always in this comparing of the 2. And Arusha, Tanzania was always ending up on the short end of that comparison, and part of this has been like embracing this idea that this was a permanent change in my life, and so this is reality now. Doesn't matter what's happening in Baltimore, what's here. And so making that mindset shift, and actually now being able to be excited about that, and what potential that has, and even almost making it a little bit of sometimes I make it a little bit of a mind game for myself, like, well, I know you and I there were some issues when I was trying to deal with our accountant and the auditing process here, and the frustrations I had with that. And so, we put together this whole little strategy of how I would sort of prep myself and go in there, and have come out of that meeting with the accountant, having achieved my objective, feeling good about it, him feeling good about it, feeling like we achieved something, and sort of making that my entire day was focused on that one, 90-minute meeting and making it a success. But when I came out and it was, and I was celebrating that. And so, sort of gamifying it a little bit, and be like, okay, let me see how far I could get on this, with this approach. And so I can just, it's taken a lot of that weight off. I feel like I kind of am shedding these layers of whatever, of this kind of burden of trying to deal with things not being the way they were. And instead, recognizing it for what it is and seeing opportunity
Yeah.
in that, instead of seeing nothing but obstacles or challenges. I mean,
You're getting me teary. I told you I didn't want to do this before, but this is like, this is exactly what I mean, I don't say I want this, but in my heart, this is what I want for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like I say, by the end of this time, we're going to blah, 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 but this is what I want in my heart for you. So that makes me really excited. Yeah.
Well, and I've always, the analogy I've always, the analogy I've always used about trying to function here is, it's like walking in waist deep water. You're still getting, you're still moving forward. You're still moving in the direction of your goal, your destination. It's just taking a lot more time and using a lot more energy. And so that energy piece, I think, has also been huge for me. So it's like, okay, we know it's going to take more energy. Or I know it's going to take more energy. So what do I do? How do I both protect my energy? Are there things I can do to reduce that drain? And also, are there things I can do to give myself the energy it takes? So that, we've done a lot around self-care and making that time for myself and taking care of my needs at the same time as those of the kids and my husband and the work
and your clients.
Yeah, I mean, even just recently, in this last month, we've been working specifically on how do I take weekends off, or how do I completely take some days or time off and not feel like I'm supposed to be working or doing this or responding to this email. And for 3 weekends in a row now, I've done that pretty well.
Yay! I'm so proud of you. I'm just hearing that. That's great.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not completely, you can't completely avoid it in this line of work, because you have guests every day of the week, every day of the year. But setting those boundaries to take care of myself so I can be a better mother, be a better wife, be a better host to those people who have invested in us and trusted in us to take good care of them while they're here. And
you are so serious. I mean, I'll share more too, but you are so serious about your clients. We had a conversation where I was just like, oh my gosh, that's what you do for your clients. Cause I live in South Africa. We've been on lots of safaris, and you were blowing me away at the care that you give and the personal attention and the fast response and the heartfelt concern. Like, seriously, you guys, wow. So you and I have talked about this. That is just like world-class service. I have not felt that in another safari experience. So that's so cool. And your heart is completely with your clients. And I love that. And plus you're super efficient and you get them what they need. And
and that's part of, I mean, from the beginning, that's been part of our business model, or our approach to the work. And that also has to do with the fact that this is our home. I mean, this is Kakasi's birth home, but this is my home now too. And we want anyone who comes here to have, an incredible experience, and to feel that, hospitality, and feel that care, and feel that relationship before progress, to feel that relationship aspect of the culture here. And so, that's how we approach it from the first email until
that was so obvious to me, even though that wasn't what we were talking about. That like became so obvious to me in our work together. Plus, by the way, cheetahs will jump up on guides and they'll do some amazing things with the animals. Just quick. So we've talked about all the positive things and what's really working for you, but what's hard about doing this? Because, one of my clients, I joke, I say, I don't call this the year of tweak. This is the year of transformation. So what is hard about it?
This has been something too. We just bumped up against this really, last call, I think it was, our last session. You were even saying, you had not seen this kind of resistance. It was talking about like sort of really setting hard boundaries of, taking a day off, or taking, the weekend, and focusing on the family or my marriage, or, and leaving the emails behind. And you had said, you had not seen that kind of resistance from me yet in the year. And so, that kind of pushing me into this uncomfortable spot, because like I said, I'm achievement oriented. When I, again, back in my earlier chapters of life, I was single before I had kids. When I first moved to Baltimore, especially, I worked 7 days a week and didn't mind. I enjoyed the work, and I enjoy this work. So it seems, it didn't seem like it was such a bad thing to do, but realizing that it meant taking time away from the kids, taking time, my husband's gone for days at a time on safari. So when he's home, we need to make that an effort to be together as a family, to have that intentional time, and figure out a way to carve that out without leaving any guests waiting or wondering, or not serving them. But how do we do that? So we've also worked a lot on sort of the back end here, and that's why we're adding another employee actually to help even more with a lot of that logistical stuff and all of that, so that Kakasi can focus on what he's best at, which is taking guests on safari. I can focus on what I'm best at around communication and working with the guests, to plan their itineraries and get everything set up for them to arrive here. And now we've got, employees that are helping with all the, payments and bookings and supplies and, all the things that go into having a successful experience for somebody. So basically we do what we're best at.
And what I'm hearing is what's hard is like confronting old habits, or confronting places where you should change, but you don't want to change because those places feel safe, right? Like I know for myself, it's like, oh, I am holding on to this. Don't make me let go of it.
Yeah, and I don't remember what the exact circumstances were, but like at one point, in a conversation we were having, I had to like actually acknowledge that the problem here is not living in Tanzania. The problem here is me. And that, whatever my resistance was to that particular issue. And I remember having to acknowledge that to you and say, okay, I get it. It's me. I'm making this harder than it needs to be right now. Not any external factors. Not in this case. It's not like opening the bank account or whatever. It's like, this is me making it harder than it needs to be.
Oh, I totally get that. I mean, I work with my own coach, so I totally get it. I don't ask you to do anything I don't do, right? And I'm human too, so I get my stuff and I want to like dig my claws into, like my favorite thing is, it's going to be difficult and it's going to take a long time. Those are my two favorite lies. No, just get my claws at them. My coach would be like, well, then they take those claws out of those thoughts, because it's totally impacted. So I completely get it.
Yeah, I definitely have those two same feelings. Like if I've got to venture out and do something, I'm like, this is gonna be, this is gonna be a pain in the neck, and it's gonna take forever, and whoever I'm dealing with is not gonna understand what my need, what I'm saying or what my needs are, and yeah, so I have to try to rewrite that script and say, well, let's go find out if that's, is that really how it's going to be or not? We don't know until we get out there. And I mean, there are days that I have to like, I have to talk to myself like that and be like, all right, today you're going to get in the car, you're going to deal with the traffic, you're going to deal with the traffic police. Just this morning I got stopped and had to deal with the traffic police, hassling me about something. But, it's like, I'm just like, get a good night's sleep the night before, have a good breakfast, do my meditation in the morning, like all these things to do. And it's like, now I'm ready to face, I can do this. And, now it's, as I've built up those muscles, things aren't as hard as they maybe once were. And sometimes now I can laugh about it. I can just be like, oh, this is the 6th time that we are trying to get this done right, with somebody. And, now it's just, let's just be able to laugh about it. And, try again tomorrow and just keep working and looking at that look at the gain, not the gap. And that in our business is really important too, because there's government bureaucracy, there's, trying to follow all the tax regulation, and we are really trying to work hard to make sure we're compliant with everything, we're operating above board. Culturally, that's not necessarily the norm, or not the people don't assume that's how they're going to operate here. A lot of people just assume everyone's trying to cut corners, or dodge this or dodge that. So sometimes it's hard to do the right, legitimate thing, because everybody assumes that you want shortcuts. And just trying to just hang on to that, and look back now at, like, a couple of years ago, they added value-added tax to all the tourism products, and that just became like this whole new level now of financial management and bookkeeping and all of that. And just this morning, Esuvat is our office assistant, so she helps me with that. And we were just saying, look at how much better we are at this than we were even 6 months ago. And systems are changing, and they're kind of a headache to deal with, government systems. But at the same time, it's like, oh, but you know what? Once they get all the flaws or all the bugs worked out of the system, or enough of them worked out of the system, it's going to make this other thing so much easier. And let's celebrate that part. That's one less thing we'll have as, weighing us down or slowing us down. So,
well, I mean, when I hear what you've shared, I hear you went from feeling, I would call it expat fatigue, like fatigued from, the whole overwhelm in the situation, resisting what is, kind of doing the, back in Baltimore thing. And what I'm hearing, what you're sharing now, I mean, I have my own perspective of what I've seen in our work, but what I'm hearing right now is this idea of you've started doing different things so that you have more energy, like the way you take care of yourself or manage your time. You're accepting what is more culturally, and you have new strategies for that. I hear that you're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of your business better, your family better, etc. And there was one other thing that came up. And then just breaking through the stuff, like breaking through those things that pop up where you're holding yourself back. What are you most proud of all the things how you've showed up this year? What are you most proud of?
Oh gosh. I would say it's been around this kind of this idea of self-care, but this isn't even necessarily an expat issue. I think this is a woman's issue, or a mother's issue, at least, is putting yourself last. And a few months ago or 6 months ago, I don't know, one of the things I was talking about being hard was, like, I had never even found a salon to go to get my hair cut. I just kept growing my hair along because I, wasn't taking that time. And then I found somebody, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's kind of, relatively speaking, that's as expensive to go get your hair cut and colored here. And so I wasn't doing it, but, my husband was still going and getting his hair. I mean, he just shaves his head, but, he never thought twice about doing it. And if the kids needed a haircut, we took the kids and got their hair cut. And like I just kept putting it off and not doing that not going to get my hair cut, that's like just a normal thing. That's not even like a luxury. That's just a thing you do.
Maintenance. That's maintenance.
Yeah. Maintenance. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I kind of like, I'm moving in that direction of, okay, it's maintenance. It's not, anything luxurious. But then I've actually also been able to go a little bit further ahead and give myself some luxuries, and just enjoy that. I've done a couple of like solo retreats where I've just said to Kakasi, my husband, is like, honey, I need a couple of days. And if he's not on safari, he's happy to be here at home with the kids and spend time with them, and he supports that. And so I've gone and I've done just a mile from our house. I went and rented an Airbnb place for a couple of nights, or later this month I'm hoping to do it again. I mean, like, that's a huge step for me to say, everyone else, you're gonna take care of yourself, or we're gonna put something on hold while I go and rejuvenate. I go
and you did it in service. I mean, I won't share what it's about, but it's for something really cool that's going to be coming out that's in service of the big picture. So what you said is what one of my other Year of Transformation clients was her mantra, and her mantra was put me first. And we talked about how really important for anybody who hears put me first and thinks selfish. I want you to imagine a scale of selfish is here, and that means you only think of your needs and you ignore the needs at the detriment of the others. Selfless is where you ignore your own needs and you suffer, but the others benefit, right? So there are two ends of the spectrum, and in the middle is self-care, right? So you still are not damaging others, right? And you're not, damaging yourself. So, well, we could talk for a long time, and I want to respect your time because you have this amazing business to run. Tell us more. I mean, because you really do offer amazing service from what I've seen behind the scenes. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so our company is called Tanzania Choice Safaris, and you can find us online at tanzaniachoicesafaris.com. If you Google my name, or if you Google my name and Arusha, you'll find us. A few years ago, we were actually featured on an episode of House Hunters International, and so you might find the link that comes up kind of if you Google us. But you can go to our website. We're on Facebook, and if someone's interested in doing a safari, they can just connect through email. We have a kind of an intake form on our website too, where they can share some of their ideas. And I'm the I'm first point of contact. So if you email the company, you're gonna be in touch with me.
And tell them you heard about you on the Facebook Live.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I see my role. I consider myself a safari guide of sorts. I'm going to help people. I help our guests sort of look at all the options. I hear from them. What are their hopes? What are their interests? What's their favorite animal? I mean, sometimes even just knowing that helps us craft. Every itinerary is custom designed according to what we learn from the guests and what they're hoping for. And so I take all of that in, and I work then with Kakasi, because he's the real expert. He's out there in the bush. He's on the ground. He knows what's where, and we work together as a team to craft those itineraries. And it's a joint effort then with our guests. We tweak and adjust and add and subtract until we get it just right. And then we celebrate that they're on their way and welcome them.
Watch amazing cheetahs and great pictures. She's also a great photographer. You're not giving all of your talents away right now, but she's also an amazing photographer. You'll see her stuff on the website as well. Brenda, I'll stay on afterwards to just chat with you. So hang on with me.
Okay.
Before we end this live discussion, if someone is on the fence about Year of Transformation, what would you tell them? I would really encourage one of the traps. It took me a while to commit to doing it. It's a significant investment of time and a financial investment, and so I sat on it for a long time, I think, before I gave you my definite answer. And what I realized I was doing was I was looking at it as, I'm going to pay this much money for 1 year of this coaching, and eventually, ultimately I realized, no, I'm going to pay this much money, but this is setting me up. This is something I'm going to gain and use for the duration. It wasn't like when we have our final session later this month, it's not like everything I've experienced and learned goes away. Right. And so I changed, again, it was a mind shift change. It was like, yes, I'm making a significant investment. The financial investment is happening over these next several months, but the results are going on into infinity. As long as I'm around, those results are going to be there. So I really changed it, not into I'm making a investment for a year-long program. It was, I'm making this investment into my lifetime of living as an expat in Tanzania. Yeah. And once I did that, then that's how I bought, that was my buy-in to this, to say yes. My husband was supportive of it from the moment I explained it to him. Yeah. And so once I kind of shifted to that and thought, this isn't a year-long one and done kind of thing. This is part of that permanent transition into this life.
And so if someone, I think this is especially a valuable resource and experience for someone who expects to be or already has been a long-term expat, whether in the same country or if they do, short-term assignments, or they're, they move around, if they're, depending on what kind of work they're doing. These are lessons that you're not going to lose them again. And so, if you look at it that way, to take that and not only think about the next year, but think about how this can impact you for the rest of your life. And even if you go back to your home country, these are lessons that can be applied to life. If I did end up back in the US, a lot of what I've learned, all of what I've learned with you, working with you, is still applicable and important. So I think that's important to look at it as there's long-term impact and results coming out of this year-long investment.
It's really interesting you say that, because that's how I see it. And it's cool that you saw it the same way. Like I have these moments with my clients where I'm like, do you understand? Now that you do it that way, and now that you see it like that, it will change the rest of your life, your relationships. And that's the coolest moments, usually when I lose my mascara, because I'm so proud of you. But that's so wonderful. So, wow, our time has whizzed by. So I will catch you after this live briefly. And for those who are listening, check out Tanzania Choice Safaris. Amazing service. I know that, and the pictures are gorgeous. And I think my biggest takeaway, no matter what you do and how you choose to invest in yourself, is to get clear on, how am I showing up now? What do I have to do to change so that I show up for myself differently, that I have the energy to go forward and can navigate my relationships and my business and say yes to myself. Because I think you're right. I think a lot of women that I work with, especially mothers, have a really hard time investing in themselves, even if it has no fee associated with it, but just saying, yes, I'm going to take that time and go to the gym, because it's about saying yes to everything else, because, what do they say? Happy spouse, happy house. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Brenda, I'll catch you right after this, and pop in the comments. I haven't been monitoring the comments. I've been totally focused on Brenda, so I'll check comments later. And take care. Let's see if I can get the tech off successfully, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Okay.